скажем, да.
Окей.
Так, вот он тут идет.
Сядай.
Это второе, вот то, что
Так.
ваши эти все.
Здесь мы
Да,
переключаем.
да, да.
Прямо здесь?
Ну нет, смотрите, просто нужно будет опять тоже перетаскивать, как и вот с
Там
тем, как...
Паша,
Нет, там было...
React.js,
Надо было открывать там.
что-то новенькое.
Тогда давай.
Мы один раз перетащили.
Сейчас,
Всё.
секунду. Да,
Как-то
тогда,
так
тогда
вот
сейчас
было.
обратно
Я
сделаем.
знаю вопрос, который я задам. Я его вчера задавал.
О, Господи.
В чем разница между React и React Native? Ну я теперь его не задам.
Так, третье. Дальше. Четвертое. И пятое.
Хочешь, иди. Без разницы, кто пойдет.
Так, будет всего 5, да?
Я все расскажу.
Будет всего 5.
Раз, два, три. Ну, походу,
Я
да.
тогда это закрываю. Нам, в принципе, не понадобится.
Ну, если что, почты откроем.
Чтобы лишь... Ну ладно.
Лучше будет.
Хорошо, так. Да. Да, сейчас я подойду, включу.
Так, здесь все активно, как должно быть, да? Или нет?
Здесь просто вот нужно третье, чтобы
Вот
всегда
это, да.
на нем
А
стояло.
потом мышкой туда.
Не, потом, да, потом просто
А, и
F11.
вот вижу её, да.
Да, да, да.
Все, это...
Для презентации
Всё.
F11. Все, там трансляция.
Too much, too much.
Я могу нажимаем сразу.
Мгм. А есть вообще Артур? Артур Радюхин. А ты, да? А, все. Будешь первый. Мы начинаем.
Не, почекаем давай. Таку.
Кому?
2 хвилини.
Зачем?
Фірміхи. Піце.
Так, объясняю, как пользоваться пультом. Здесь две кнопки. Вперед и назад. Если слайды идут вниз, то все равно нажимаете вперед. То есть они идут подряд. Так? Возвращаемся. Больше никаких особенностей нет. Микрофон включен, так что...
Сейчас.
Первый
Ти
пошел.
Ну, в Телеграмі я маю на увазі. Ну, почекай.
Артур только, ну ладно.
У нас идет уже трансляция.
Так чекати мені.
Давай, давай.
Раз, раз.
Don't point to the screen. The
Point it
actual
here.
devices.
When you
The screen
switch,
has no sensors.
you should point here.
Hello, my name is Artur Radyukhin. I'm student of BCMO and concurrently student of Rolling School. And today I'm gonna speak to you about React Native basics, and I will start from some React history. React was created by Jordan Woki, a software engineer at Facebook, who released an early prototype of React. And he was influenced by XHP, an HTML component for PHP. And React was first deployed at Facebook's newsfeed in 2011 and later on Instagram in 2012. And was open sourced at 2013. React can be used as base in the development of single page or mobile applications, as it's open for fetching rapidly changing data that needs to be recorded. And, however, fetching data is only the beginning of what happens on the web page, which is why complex React applications usually require to use additional libraries for state management, routing, and interaction with API. React Auto, Redux, and Axios are examples of such libraries. What's React Native? React Native it's open source mobile application framework created the same as React by Facebook. It's very similar to React. It's used to develop application for Android and iOS by enabling developers use React alone with native platform capabilities. The React primitives render to native platform user interface, unlike the hybrid solutions that basically wrap your code in a web view. And this has become a popular choice for mobile development due to enabling high level of code reuse between Android and iOS. The working principles of React Native are identical to the React, but React Native doesn't manipulate the virtual DOM like React. The React Native doesn't use HTML. Instead of this, message from the JavaScript through it are used to manipulate native views. Next, I will talk about some notable features of React Native, such as learn once, write everywhere, declarative, component-based, J6 elements of React Native, and React hooks. Learn once, write everywhere. The title of the topic speaks for itself. React runs on multiple platforms, including being able to be rendered on the server, browser, mobile, and desktop. Declarative programming is a paradigm that focuses on describing what you want instead of how, and React make it painless to create interactive user interfaces and design simple use for each state in your application. And React efficiently update and render just the right components when your data is changed. Declarative views make your code more predictable and easier to debug. You can see an example of imperative and declarative mode of coding. Declarative mode just describe what you want to see on a web page. But imperative, how you can see it. Okay, component-based. You can build encapsulated components that manage their own state, then compose them to make complex user interfaces. And since component logic is right in JavaScript, instead of templates, you can easily pass rich data through your app and keep state out of DOM. Some example of React components and JavaScript XML, extendable markup language, is HTML SQL language that you will be using to write your React interfaces. Code example of J6 and element of React. This code ends up being rendered as a native text label. You can use embed expressions. It's a powerful feature of G6. It's the ability to embed any JavaScript expression into your G6. And you can embed all expression what you want in curly braces. And you can embed them. Compilation. After compilation, G6 expression become a regular JavaScript function calls and evaluate to JavaScript objects. This allows you to use G6 in if and for loops, assign it to variables as arguments, and return it from functions. And also you can use empty tag is if your J6 doesn't have any children, anything between the tag open and close, and you can use the slash to be self-closing tag. Elements are the smallest building blocks of a React app, and elements describe what you want to see on the screen. And they are rendered into their corresponding code for the platform. And elements are immutable, meaning they don't change. If one of elements attributes children change, then a new element is created and rendered for its place. This update only occurs on the element that changed and not whole tree. Next, components, property, and children's. Properties, it's так, немножко пропустил. One of the main advantages of React is it's focusing on splitting user interfaces into independent, reusable pieces called components. Components in JavaScript, components are JavaScript functions or classes that accept inputs as properties and return React elements describing the user interface. And always start components name with a capital letter because you need to distinguish between DOM types and components. Properties, they are only read inputs passed to components. The value Chris is passed to the components welcome in the props as props.name. And props are the key to a component's reusability. You can see that example. Components exist two components, class-based and functional. Class-based component used to be the only option for components that needed to hold state, but are starting to fall out of popularity due to the introduction of React hooks, which gives them functional component or the power of class-based component, while still keeping them simpler. Functional component is literally a component written in as a JavaScript function. Since it's a JavaScript function, it can be written in the classic way or as an arrow function. State is the key to a component encapsulation. It allows the component to hold and manage its own data. The way state is used in class-based components and functional components are one of the main differences between the two. This class-based functional component and use-state hook. Use-state hook enables function components to hold and manage state. And the last title of my presentation is hooks and lifecycle methods. And let's go briefly on the methods. For advanced logic, class-based components have lifecycle methods, and functional components have hooks. A method constructor is invoked before the component is mounted, and used for initializing local state by assigning an object to the state. And for binging event handler methods to an instance. Render invoked when there is a change that needs to be rendered, and the render function is the only required method in the class component. And the render function used to return the component what you want to render it, and React elements, arrays, and fragment, and so on. And function should be pure, meaning that it doesn't modify component state, and it returns the same result each time is invoked, and it doesn't case any side effect. Component did mount invoked immediately after component is mounted, and used for loading data from a remote endpoint and for setting up a subscription. And component did update invoked immediately after an update occurs, and used for specific user interface operations you want to happen after update. Component will unmount invoked before component is mounted and destroyed, and used for doing any necessary cleanup. You can see the image of lifecycle of these methods. And let's speak about hooks. Hooks, a new way to add functionality to functional components. Its two main selling points are extract stateful logic from a component so it can be independently tested and reused, all without changing your component hierarchy. And do everything with functional components. There are only two rules for using hooks. Just don't call hooks from inside loops, conditions, or nested function, and only call hooks from React functions. Some example of hooks: use state, use effect, and custom hooks. Custom hooks, if you find some logic written by yourself, you can use custom hook to create something functionality what you want. Thanks for the attention. I hope it's not very boring. I don't have enough time to ready for this presentation. Sorry. Thanks for attention.
Have you ever tried to write something using React?
Nope, I don't even try React. It was hard for me to make presentation for a new theme for me, and I just learned in JavaScript. I'm student of BCMO. I'm medical student. I just only know JavaScript and HTML, CSS.
Why you decided to change your area?
Maybe I was disappointed by salary of doctors in our country. What?
You will be surprised when you will know how much you will get for a few years.
No, it's like a parachute for me, the second plan if something goes wrong. Thank you.
So, hello everybody. Today I'm here. I want to represent you a little presentation about, not little topic at all, but first of all I want to say thank you for this opportunity to stand here and to share with you with my information. So, let us start. React.js, the JavaScript library, presentation made by Kenoga Alexey. So in order to make the whole process of explanation and understanding for you and for me is more easier, I decided to split the whole pack of information on several topics. So we are going to speak today about what is React, then why is React, and the fundamentals, okay? So what is React? React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. And here I propose you to dig into some details. A little history point here. React is a front-end library developed by Facebook. It is used for handling the view layer for web and mobile apps. React.js allows us to create reusable UI user interface components. And to be afloat about this topic, it is good if you're familiar already with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, of course, DOM, ES6, and Node.js, and of course, NPM. So a little point conclusion here is React is just a JavaScript library made by Facebook, and it is good if you're familiar with several technologies which I already told you about. So keep moving. Why is React? Numbers are said to rule the world. No, they only show how they rule the world. I hope you understand that this quote here is not a random one. It is here for some reason, first of all, and I hope you will understand it and you will catch the message. So here are two pictures which shows us the statistics about React. The first one is just the statistics with GitHub repositories which are downloaded by developers. Here the red string is a React, blue one is Angular, and the green one is Vue.js. And the second one is just a Google statistics. Here colors are a little bit switched. The blue one is React, but the situation is pretty the same. Okay? So when we talk about everything, when we want to choose something, we're always thinking about advantages and disadvantages. And today I propose a little sum of advantages which I think are the most important. So first of all, it is easy to learn. For a junior developer, it is a very important thing. When it is easy to learn, it is easy to start, it is easy to continue, it is hard to quit, and you can have fun, it can be more interesting for you if it is just easy. The second thing is it is baked by a strong community. I think it is a common situation when you're stuck as a developer and you just start to surf internet. You go to Stack Overflow and etc. and you're looking for some information. When community is strong, the possibility of existing a person which already had same or the similar problems is growing. So it is very good to have a strong community. It ensures faster rendering. When developers from Facebook decided to think about this problem, they implemented the virtual DOM, document object model. It is an interesting technology because when we change something, first of all, it goes to virtual DOM, then it uses algorithm, which diff algorithm, and then it sends to a real DOM. And how does it make the faster rendering? It makes just the real DOM upload only minimal scope which we use. So it's don't upload the whole information, it only use what we choose. And it guarantees a stable code. Very important thing, I think, because when you work in a team or just when you work alone, and of course you don't want to ruin the whole code structure. You just want to add something, change something, and it ensures a stable code, because when you change something in a component, or you just change a state, for example, in the end, it changes only particular components, not the whole structure. And my own recipe of popularity, I think, is convenient to use, plus efficiency, plus wonderful tools, and plus a strong community. So a point conclusion here is React just popular with statistic. It has its own advantages. I think these advantages are competitive. And yeah, something like this. And the third question, what we're going to speak about today, the fundamentals. Of course, it's not an appropriate time and an appropriate place to told you about the whole fundamentals. So I decided to choose a few of them. I decided to speak about the components, just the base, GS6, useful tool, props and states, which are both come together as data types. So let's continue. Components. Component is a one isolated part of an interface. Here you can see a picture, and if you're familiar with HTML, you'll find something common, something familiar too. And the principle is pretty the same when you put one component in another component, when you use one div and put it in another div. It's just the same, almost the same HTML markup. So what we need to understand right now, component is a base. It is easy to understand because it's just primitive. JS6. JS6, it's not a necessary thing. It's just a convenient tool for React, and it makes a code more readable and more effective for a developer. I don't think that here could be some problems. Props. Props, first of all, equals properties, and props shouldn't be changed. Here we can see code where some person added his first name and the last name. And in the end, when we use our function, we will get the following HTML thing. So we use props to add some information which shouldn't be changed. And then it goes about state. State is created in the component. Here we can see a primitive function which makes the state count 0, and then we can see that we can change it. We can do a +1 and whatever we want. So change is changeable. To make it all clear, props and states, while props and states both hold information relating to the component, they are used differently and should be kept separate. And the point conclusion about this question is React has fundamentals. We have been looking through some of them. Components is just a base. JS6, it is a wonderful, useful tool. Props and states both come together. Props shouldn't be changed. State can be changed. And the last thing is when it is hard at learning, it is easy in battle. The main message about this quote is, don't matter how difficult it is, if you still keep fighting, you will be grateful for that because the reward is worth it. So thank you for your attention. It was me, it was React.js. So thank you, everybody.
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
First question, what materials did you use while you gathering information for this presentation?
Mostly some internet resources.
Do you ever use some materials on English?
Yeah, sure.
I mean that it's maybe like mistake. Everybody say no. It's components.
Components.
Components, not recipes, recipe.
All right, all right. Fundamentals.
A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
made this mistake. And
It's okay.
All right, I understand.
We don't say
English is
you're
very good,
bad.
so
No,
it's
it's
really
okay.
like you say it very correct. This is like only word that really like killing.
I understand.
And
Where did you learn English?
it's okay.
I hope it's not a bad thing. All right.
Your English is pretty
And
good.
another question I have, you mentioned in the start that you can have fun with React.
Okay. I meant that have fun. It can be just be it can be interesting. When you learn something, it is good if it is interesting. If it is not hard. For example, in the first place, if it is hard, it is you always thinking about, it's hard. I don't like it. I can do it. I can't. But anyway, it's not hard. During my presentation, I tried to tap something, but just for a presentation for this code, where what you have seen about your question, my English, it's been 2 years of Streamline. Then I just like it. I just like languages, I like German, English. It's my not obsession, but my hobby, for example. So I think yes, it's because of Streamline and my own interest in this thing. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question on your topic. You mentioned that React is just a JavaScript library, and you're familiar with the term framework.
I've heard, of course.
And why didn't you use this word?
About React.js.
Yeah, about React.js.
Because React.js is a JavaScript library.
Okay, what's the difference between framework
Yeah. It's a good question, of course, but I hope I can't say it properly right now because I don't want to be to have mistake in this.
So you don't know why React.js isn't a framework?
I just know it's a fact that React.js is a library, and yeah.
And maybe you know something, some frameworks, just the frameworks.
Frameworks? Angular.
Angular.
Angular. Yes, I heard. Voca? No, it's a library. Voca. I just googled it for 2 hours ago. Some Voca, Voca.js. Yeah, but it was a library, as far as I remember. Okay.
Who's next? React.js. React.js component.
Some components.
Component. Remember it, please.
You should put yourself so
Oh,
close
sorry.
to the mic.
Hello, let me introduce myself. Hello, let me introduce myself. I'm Sergey. I'm student of the Rolling Scope School. One of the tasks of the course requires me a live performance. Therefore, I'm here now. As you probably noticed, I choose React library as the topic of my presentation. So, what is React? The text on the slide hints that React is a JavaScript library for creating user interfaces. A bit of history. React was created by this guy. His name is Jordan Walke, and he is a Facebook Facebook front-end developer. The first time it was used in 2011 at the Facebook newsfeed, and later in 2012 at the Instagram newsfeed. The source code was opened in 2013, May 2013, at the JSConf US conference. So, what are the concepts of React? React is declarative. Declarative programming is like describing the picture, and imperative programming is like instruction for painting that picture. Declarative programming makes code more readable because it hides the lower level detail. Also, code becomes more abstracted and we describe the solution instead of the procedure. In React, you make interactive UIs by changing the state of the component, and React takes care for updating the DOM according to it. It's a difficult world. React based on components. Component is a small feature that makes up a piece of the user interface. Components have their own structure, their own methods, and their own APIs. They are also reusable and can be pasted into interfaces at will. The independent nature of components allow the developers to create the UI with many different moving parts. Because components are independent, one component can be refreshed without affecting other components of the UI. Learn once, write anywhere. Different platforms have different looks, feels, and capabilities, and as such, we should still be developing described apps for each platform, but the same set of engineers should be able to build applications for whatever platform they choose, without necessity to learn a fundamentally different set of technologies for each. React developers call this approach learn once, write anywhere. So let's imagine for a moment that we all are front-end developers and have already learned how to turn on the computer, to download and install our favorite code editor and Node.js. Are you ready? I think yes, good. How to start? React developers have tried to make our life as easy as possible. In order to get started, create React app in the search bar of your browser. The first shown link will redirect us to a GitHub repository. You can find a brief installation guide in the README file. Open the folder of your project in the console. There we write npx create React app, my app. Npx, unlike npm, not only installs models but also configures our environment. Instead of my app, we write the name of our project. npm start entering package JSON and starts the project according to the instructions that are described in it. Node.js launches a local server at the port 3000 or for our SPA. And what is SPA? A single page application is an app that doesn't need to reload the page during its use and works within a browser. Think about apps like Facebook, Google Maps, Twitter, or even GitHub. They are all an examples of an SPA. In simple words, we use traditional page, or in other words, multi-page application, but don't confuse this with landing, in only 3 cases. The client-side requirements are easy or read-only. Our app should function in a browser without JavaScript support. We don't know JavaScript or TypeScript. And one more thing you can think about this theme is a case when you are don't afraid of problems with CAO. I'm sorry. The main advantage of the single page applications is their speed. Most resources SPA needs, HTML, CSS scripts are loaded at the launch of the app and don't need to be reloaded during the usage. The only thing that changes is the data that is transmitted to and from the server. As a result, the application is very responsive to the user's queries and don't have to wait a client-server communication all the time. A lot of developers prefer React for the project they develop, unless there are requirements for another framework. It's both lightweight and mature enough to be tested and tried. React is the right choice for those who are just getting started with JavaScript front-end frameworks, as well as startups and developers who like being flexible. So what is GS6? GS6 is a concept that allows us to write HTML elements in JavaScript and play them in the DOM without any create element or an append child methods. It converts HTML tags into React elements. Components. What is components? Component is a JavaScript class or function that optionally accepts properties, props, and returns a React element that describes how a section of the UI should appear. Components are the building blocks of any React app, and a typical React app will have many of these. Props. In some cases, companies need to communicate, send data to each other. And the way to pass data between components is by using props. Props is a special keyword in React which stands for the properties and is being used for passing data from one component to another. But the important part here is that data with props are being passed in unidirectional flow, only from parent to child. Props data is read-only, which means the data coming from the parent should be not changed by child components. Summary. React is great for teamwork. Your UI code is readable and easy to fix if you use React. Component-based UI is the future of the web development, and you need to start doing it right now. Disadvantages. React will slow you down at the start because you don't have skills to use it. React does not support any browser below IE8, and you may be implementing a lot of code for resolving a small task. Thank you for your attention. Have a nice evening. Means that React is based on components, and components are.
Maybe I should ask you. UI means user interface.
Yes.
Code. User interface code.
A code that makes user interface.
Code that makes user interface.
No, maybe it's not.
It's not obvious. So please continue.
When I was doing this presentation, I looked a lot of resources and a lot of code examples, and I don't know React. I tried it with some. Not tried it. I looked at guys who tried it in different streams, and I didn't saw any new elements, something that I can't understand, and this why I think that code is readable and easy to fix. Maybe if you should fix something in one place, you know that there is a component that makes this place, and you fix it right there.
So you mean that it's easy to maintain this code?
Yes, I think so.
Right.
Yes, you mentioned that you can use JavaScript and TypeScript while you're using React, right?
Yes.
And you know the difference between them?
I don't know it. I heard about TypeScript, and I know that JavaScript code are working if you copy it in TypeScript. I know that TypeScript is easier, and
TypeScript is easier?
I heard one of
Finished.
yes. I don't know difference, but it's one of the interesting things, and I think if I have enough time, I will try like I will try TypeScript too.
Your
Thank you.
answers don't need to be technically correct. We just need to hear you speak.
So you
So,
heard
so
it.
don't worry.
Thank you.
And component base, there should be an S instead of Z.
Component based
Well,
or third point from the beginning.
oh,
Advantages.
sorry.
Less Z.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Dalia. Today I want to tell you about Vue.js. Let's start.
Point here.
One.
To the actual class.
Oh. No. Yeah. Okay. What is Vue? Vue.js is an open source progressive JavaScript framework for building user interfaces and single page applications. If you already wrote some web applications with vanilla JavaScript or jQuery, Vue makes it really easy to bind data to your HTML elements. Furthermore, Vue is component based. Vue was created by Evan You after working at Google using Angular JS in a number of projects. The first source code commit to the project was dated July 2013. The first release was in February 2014. Vue is a very popular JavaScript framework which is developing rapidly. As we can see, Vue recently has clocked more than 150,000 stars on GitHub. Why developers love Vue? Any developer can understand and build interactive web interfaces in a matter of time. It's simple, teeny, about 24 kilobytes, and very performant. It feels different from all the other JavaScript frameworks and libraries. Vue has a rich ecosystem of official core libraries, great developer tooling support, a lot of third-party plugins, developer tutorials. On the slide, we can see some of the core libraries. Vue Router is an official router for Vue.js. Vuex is a state management pattern plus library for Vue.js applications. Vue Loader is a loader for Webpack that allows you to create Vue components. Vue Server Render makes it easy to create JavaScript applications which runs both on server and client side. Vue Test Utils is the official unit testing library for Vue.js. Vue CLI is a full system for rapid Vue.js development. Vue DevTools, browser DevTools extension for debugging Vue.js applications. A few words about Vue DevTools. Any popular framework has its own DevTools extension, which generally adds a new panel to the browser DevTools. In this case, the panel will let us inspect our Vue application and interact with it. The developer tools can only inspect a Vue application when it's in development mode. There are a few ways to install Vue.js. It depends on whether you want to set up a more complex workflow using Webpack, or if you want to simply import a script and get started with it right away. Direct script include simply download and include Vue.js with script tag. In this case, Vue is registered as global variable. You can install Vue with CDN. For prototyping or learning purposes, you can use the latest version. For production, use recommended linking to specific version number. If you are using a native YES models, there is also an YES models compatible build. NPM is recommended for developing large-scale application. So the first thing you need to install is the latest version of Node.js. Then use command npm install Vue. Vue CLI is a command line tool that we use to create a new project. Just download file and include that file into your project one folder. This is used for implementing Vue.js in existing project. So we have already created our very first Vue app. This looks pretty similar to render a string template. The data and the DOM are now linked, and everything is now reactive. Vue, React, or Angular. Choosing one is always a hard task. The goal here is not to say which is the best or which is the worst. Every framework has its pros and cons. I just want to let you know in which cases you may want to choose Vue over the other frameworks. Vue is a good fit for you if you want to learn framework that has the easiest learning curve. You want the most lightweight framework. You want to use it for a little or medium project. You work alone or in a small team. Vue is a not good fit for you if you have a large project, prefer Angular or React. You are not sure how your project must be structured. You want to have a complete ecosystem. 10 big companies that have trusted Vue.js. As you can notice, some of the biggest companies, for example, Google, Apple, GitLab, Font Awesome, and other, started to use Vue.js. Some of them for the main product and some for the secondary projects. It means that the interest in Vue.js is growing up very fast. And with the features of Vue 3 that should be released in 2020, This framework is going to be the biggest competitor of React. Vue 3. The major changes expected in Vue.js in Vue 3 include optimized slots generation, virtual DOM rewrite for faster performance, TypeScript support, modularity, hooks API, and more. Thank you for your attention. Maybe maybe I a bit improve my English skills in pronunciation, but maybe nothing. Maybe a bit a bit less nervous.
And if to talk a bit wider, you took part in the previous course of Rollins Hope School, and you're now studying here. What do you feel? What's the difference? Could you please describe?
About
Is it harder to study now?
to be honest, a bit harder because in our course was and maybe was more tasks and
This time is not
a bit here maybe, but as for me, I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, maybe for me harder because I try to do more.
I heard that the physical code task is simplified now.
Yeah, I heard too. Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Hmm.
Did you made it the first time?
No, I didn't. Mm. I think that it would be unusual to share this information about exactly Vue.js because I don't know why, but almost nobody didn't choose this topic. And I think it's important because it's one of the most famous frameworks, JavaScript front-end frameworks. Thank you.
Whoa, another guy.
Hello guys, my name is Pavel and today I will tell you what is
On microphone, use please microphone.
My name is Pavel and today I will tell you what is the blockchain. It's my first presentation. A brief history of blockchain. To start, let's talk about the history.
Throw it away.
Oh, okay. How is it? Okay, thank you. Maybe I sit. Okay, thank you. A brief history of blockchain. To start, let's talk about the history of the blockchain. Before it was ever used in cryptocurrency, it had humble beginnings as a concept in computer science, particularly in the domains of cryptography and data structures. The very primitive form of the blockchain was the hash tree, also known as a Merkle tree. The data structure was painted by Rolf Merkle in 1979 and functioned by verifying and handing data between computer systems. In a peer-to-peer network of computers validating data important to make sure nothing was altered to change during transfer. It also helped to ensure that false data was not sent. In essence, it is used to maintain and prove in the integrity of data being shared. In 1991, the Merkle tree was used to create a secured.
You should point here, this way, please.
Um,
Pasha, listen
Oh.
to me, please. You should point here, this way.
oh, okay. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Is it what you want to show us?
Yeah. A brief history of blockchain.
Okay.
Um, in 1991, the Merkle tree was used to create a secure chain of blocks. A secure of data records, each connected to the one before it. The newest record in this chain would contain the history of the entire chain, and thus the blockchain was created. In 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto conceptualized the distributed blockchain. It would contain a secure history of data exchanges, utilize a peer-to-peer network to timestamp and to verify each exchange, and could be managed autonomously without a central authority. This became the blockchain of Bitcoin. And thus the blockchain we know today was born as well the world of cryptocurrencies.
Point here.
Oh, how does the blockchain work? So, then how does the blockchain work? Let's recall a few key features before we get into the details. Blockchain keeps a record of all data exchanged. This record is referred to as a ledger in the cryptocurrency world of each data exchange. Is a transaction, every verified transaction added to the ledger as a block. It utilizes a distributed system to verify each transaction, a peer-to-peer network of nodes, once seen and verifying the new transaction is added to the blockchain and cannot be alerted. To begin, we need to explore the concept of keys. With a set of cryptographic key and get unique identity, your keys are the private key and public key, and together they are combined to give you a digital signature. Your public key is how others are able to identify you. Your private key gives you the power to digitally sign and authorize different actions on behalf of this digital identity when used with your public key. In the cryptocurrency world, that represents your wallet address public key and your private key. It is what lets you authorize transfers, withdrawals, and other actions with your digital property like cryptocurrencies. As an aside, this is why it's so important to keep your public key safe. Anyone who has your private key can use it to access any of your digital assets associated with your public key and do not they want with it. Every time transaction occurs, the transaction is signed by whoever is authorizing it. The transaction might be something like Alice is sending Bob 0.4 Bitcoin, will include Bob's address, public key, and will be signed be a digital signature using both Alice's public key and private key. This gets added to the ledger of that blockchain that Alice sent Bob 0.4 Bitcoin, and will also include a timestamp, a unique ID number when this transaction occurs is broadcasted to a peer-to-peer network of nodes, basically other digital entities that acknowledge that this transaction has occurred and add it to the ledger. Each transaction in the ledger will have the same data, a digital signature, a public key, a timestamp, and a unique ID. Each transaction will be connected, so if you move back one transaction in the ledger, you may see that Chuck sent Alice's 0.8 Bitcoin, and sometime, if move back another transaction, you might see that Dan sent Chuck 0.2 Bitcoin, and some other time before that. The anonymity of cryptocurrencies comes from the fact that your public key is just a randomized sequence of numbers and letters. So you are not literally signing with your own name or some sort of handle.
A public key doesn't tell you the real identity of the person behind it. You are also more or less free to generate as many key pairs as you want and have multiplied cryptocurrency wallets. Be warned of what there could be other ways someone can figure out your identity, for example, for your spending habits. Why is decentralization so important? For enthusiasts of blockchain, you will hear a lot about the decentralized aspects of it. What makes this is so appealing is that it makes the blockchain impervious to censorship, tampering, or corruption. Because it uses a peer-to-peer network, copies of the ledger are stored in many different locations, and unless you manage to track down every single one of them, you can destroy it as well, because so many different independent nodes are keeping track of the ledger, modifying it in an untrustworthy way won't go very far because it all other nodes will disagree with that transaction and won't add it to the ledger. This is a huge part of why it's so important. People believe blockchain technology is the future of currency and why it is being adopted in the industries of then cryptocurrency. There are always downsides, however. Like any system created by humans, there are always downside. Blockchain technology has a pretty steep learning curve, especially for the typical individual without a technical background. All the jargon and computer science concepts involved may intimidate and scare away otherwise would-be users. However, the rising popularity of cryptocurrency is resulting in the blockchain moving into the mainstream with a lot more resources available to make the topic more approachable. Transferring, trading, and buying cryptocurrencies usually involves a transaction fee and is not usually instantaneous. The former can be costly, the latter inconvenient. There is also usually instantaneous. The former can however, there are a lot of developments, users, and enthusiasts who truly believe blockchain technology in the future. Many want to see technology succeed, so stay tuned for new developments. Thank you for watching.
Have you ever tried to mine some cryptocurrency?
Maybe.
Use the microphone, please.
Okay. How try? I think.
No, no. Have you
If you
ever
ever tried,
tried to mine some
you
crypto
personally did
coins?
mining or not?
Yeah,
Mining what opinion?
yeah, I'm mine.
Could you please
Which
describe the process?
Yeah.
Okay. Would like to hear?
Blockchain technology. Uh, um, you try. Sorry.
Okay, as far as I know, you need RAM for it. Why do you need RAM?
RAM.
RAM? Memory?
Oh, memory.
And video card.
Video cards? Why is
Ah.
so
Why?
important
Uh,
for mining?
For mine.
Okay.
Why though?
Because it. Um, mm, I doesn't know how to say.
I have as a question. When you start to learn English?
In the summer. In yeah, yeah,
Because you
yeah,
decided to be a developer.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.